In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a construction project schedule. You're going to leave here knowing the key steps. You may know little parts of scheduling and you may have specific training, but this is going to pull it all together and make sure you don't forget any important part of the scheduling process. In this video, I'm going to talk about what is always the first thing you do to create a construction project schedule and why. The other thing is how you can eat that elephant, meaning like this is a big task, like doing a construction project schedule. Where do I start? My plans are this big. How do I go through it? How do you go through it and not get overwhelmed and eat that elephant one bite at a time? I don't even know if elephant tastes good, but I'll show you how to do it. And we're going to leave you with what is the most important characteristic of a good construction project schedule. So stay with us. We're going to jam. All right. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you have the proper overall total project duration or the right end milestone. And so let me draw some things up here on the board. Typically in construction, throughout the life cycle of construction, you have the maintenance period, you have the construction period here in the middle, and then you have pre-construction and design. So first and foremost, early on in design, whether it's you're going in for the interview, the award, conceptual design, schematic design development, or the CD phase, you need to make sure that the first thing you do is to make sure you have the right overall total project duration. And so that is the key. If I'm looking at the schedule, the start date and the end date, and this is your schedule, let me do it in a CPM format, right? It has to be correct. And let me say this, it won't be unless you have trade flow. So what I like to do with these phases is to tact them out. So each phase will be a part of a tact plan, and I will know for a fact that my start date, my end date are correct because it shows the critical path going through phases, and wait for this, that have good trade flow. That means your trade can go from area to area to area in a flow. The reason that's important is because trades should go from zone to zone to zone, and you can't just stack them or overburden them and expect them to do more work than they're capable of doing. So if you want this measurement to be correct, you must have the start and end date based on phases and a critical path that's summarizing good phases with trade flow. That's number one. And if you do that, you will have a good start and end date. And early on in pre-construction, you will be able to make sure that your budget is correct so that the designers don't take it to design more features in the building and then you have to take it back through some garbage value engineering effort. You can have the right budget from day one. And real quick, let me just say, one thing that we also ought to have from day one is a YouTube channel that really showcases how to implement remarkable construction. Oh wait, we have that. It's this one. You can just go ahead and like and subscribe right now and you have it from day one. So please do that right now. That is the first thing that we should do together. And now I'm going to talk about the second concept that if we understand, will make this huge project, this huge task seem manageable. And this works everywhere we try it. So you're not going to go take a set of plans that are like this tall and try to schedule that whole building. You're going to want to go page by page. So first and foremost, when you get on a project, you're going to want to study the drawings. And that means get an overview, a high-level understanding of what that project is going to be. And then once you have that, you kind of have a general vision of what the project is going to be. Then you're going to want to study the drawings page by page. And on each one of these pages, as you study the drawings and you look at the building components in the actual drawing set, and as you read the notes and you really get an understanding of what's on that page, right there on that page or out to the side or in your scheduling software, you go ahead and create the sequence for the work that's on that page. Yes, it's disconnected. Yes, it's not tied into the overall schedule, but you can go ahead and just schedule that single page. You can easily go through that whole set of documents and not get overwhelmed and literally schedule a sequence page by page. Then the third part of that will be to take your independent sequences and start to logic tie them together, right? And create the right logic ties so your schedule starts to show up with the phases in the right sequence. Or these sequences that you've created in step number 2 will become tacked phases, and then instead of those tacked phases being at the same start date, you will again start to create interdependence ties to where those tacked phases start to trigger the completion of secondary phases. Once you have that, you'll be able to flesh out your complete schedule, start to finish, flesh out your complete schedule, whether it's in CPM or tacked, and that way you can then only focus on the ties, and not have to worry about two things all at once. So you've separated the creation of the sequences page by page, and you've now gone over and focused on the logic tie, so now you've completed your overall schedule. So you have focus here, you have focus here, and this will really simplify complex projects and the process of creating your schedule. Okay, so real quick, please do not underestimate what I've just shown you here. This is the key. If you get asked to make a schedule, do not just dive into the software. Do not just start scheduling and typing and clicking buttons. You have to go through the drawings, you have to get a basis, and you have to start working page by page and then bring it into a network or a system. If you do that, I promise you, you're going to be proud of the work that you do. You're going to love it. Okay, so before we go to the rest of the content, I want to say the most important characteristic of a good project schedule is that it's visible. Adam Hoots the other day asked me, Jason, is there a way to create a perfect project schedule? And I said yes. That might seem irresponsible to some people because it's not a perfect projection, but that's not what makes a perfect schedule. What makes a perfect schedule is that you can perfectly see the plan. And so even if your schedule isn't right the first time, meaning that you've gone through and you've studied the plans, you've made a plan page by page, and you've networked that plan, it doesn't matter if it's right. In fact, it's not right. It's a perfect schedule if you can see it. And so that's where tacked, putting it on one page, the last planner system, putting it on visuals so that your trade partners can work with it and collaborate with it, and using systems like Scrum end up making perfect schedules because everyone can see it and it's a perfect schedule. So that's the single most important characteristic which enables the other tips that I'm going to give you. This schedule that you create has to have trade input. They are the experts. They are the builders. You are the planner, scheduler, coordinator, executor. You are the leader of the project, but we must rely on the crew leaders, the trade partners on the project, to do the building, and therefore we have to involve, get the wisdom from, and communicate with and collaborate with the people that are closest to the field and to the product that's being installed. So your master schedule, your look-ahead schedule, your weekly work plan must have trade involvement according to the last planner system. And I'll leave you with 3 keys. You're going to love this. In fact, if you don't have notes, probably want to get a piece of paper and start to take notes. Number 1, every single part of your schedule must have trade flow. Meaning, instead of a trade being like, or being asked to be in 9 different areas, I got to be here, 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 and it's all vertical on the schedule. That trade must have flow from area to area to area to area. Huge. Every schedule must have trade flow. The next concept is whatever you've created in the schedule with the trade partners, see, I'm testing you, with the trade partners, right? With trade flow, has to be able to start on that date and be supported by a supply chain. And remember, there's buffers in the supply chain, and then there's the supply chain itself. So once you create a schedule, it doesn't mean anything unless you've checked to make sure that we can get the materials to build it on those dates. And lastly, watch what I call the critical 3. That means material procurement, that means buyout, meaning that you have contracts for the trade partners, and that means coordination and permissions. So if you don't have the materials, you can't build it. If you don't have the contracts or the trade partners, you can't build it. If you don't have the area coordinated, and if you don't have the permits from the city or any other authority having jurisdiction, you can't build it. So once you create that schedule, make it a perfect schedule, which means it's visible. Make it a realistic schedule, which means including the trade partners. And then make sure you can execute that schedule by making sure that you have the proper resources that can show up on time. We've combined all of this information into a guide that we're going to put in the description below. We've put a lot of time in there. We have key commandments, we have key principles to follow. We've shown you the key things that you must do in order to have a really good construction project schedule. It's all in there. We even have contract language for you and videos and resources. You've got to check it out. It's a specifically curated website specifically for this. Please go check it out in the description below. I know you're going to love it. You've got to have it. At the end, I want you to be able to create these project schedules. If you need help, reach out to us. Put something in the comments below. Reach out to me at jasons@elevateconstructionist.com. There's training, there's books, there's resources, there's consulting, and specifically there's project support services that can help you tomorrow. There is a way to create a remarkable construction project schedule. On we go.